Hi, this is Rachel from the Dotting Center. Well, this is a first for the Dotting Center. This is a dotting tutorial without a single dot. I know. Okay, stay with me here, okay? While you know I am super stoked about dots, I've found that stylus tools are perfect for creating small floral designs, and today I'm sharing the perfect project for you to give this a shot. Today we'll be painting floral heart ornaments. The theme for these ornaments is birth flowers. I thought it would be such a cute little gift to paint someone's birth month flower on an ornament with their name on the back as a gift for the holidays. Today we'll be painting 4 different styles, and each one contains a different birth month flower. We'll do Gladiolus for August, violets for February, daisies for April, chrysanthemums for November, and asters for September. So if you're ready to try this out, let's mash up some hearts and flowers. It's a winning combo. And as a bonus, let's get ready for Christmas early. Let's do this. I am so excited. I hope you are too. For this project, you'll need these cute little blank wood heart ornaments, some pretty paints, and some ribbon. And I thought it might be a good challenge to use only stylus tools and silicone tools for this, but you might want to include a brush or bottles if you're fancy. For this project, I'm using Lumiere paints. They are beautiful. I'm using all the flower colors, 2 shades of green, and then some pearl white. For the backgrounds, I'm using a black chalk paint. It gives a nice super black look with kind of like a velvety quality to the background. Plus it helps to sketch out the flower ideas beforehand if you have a chalk paint. So first we'll prep our surface. We're just going to paint that chalky black. Let that dry and see how our base coat is now that super matte black, almost like a velvet finish for the background. Now this first one we're going to do is Gladiolus. This is the August birth month flower. This one is so fun, one of my favorite flowers. Now the first step is to draw out all of the stalks. And you can do this, I'm doing this with a stylus tool, but honestly, you can use a brush. Bottles would be much more effective here, I think, because you have to drag that paint so far. But I just wanted to see what I could do with a stylus tool alone, and that's it. So that's what I'm using for the project. And you can see here I let that light green and dark green mix. I'm not really cleaning my tool off every time, I'm just kind of letting them mix on the surface. Now at the top of these gladioli, they have these little offset buds. I don't know what they're really called, but some of you flower people might help me out. But they have these little buds that come off of the stalk, and they are offset to each other, and this is where the blooms pop out. They're super tall, and each one of these little buds ends up having a little flower that comes out. They're really, really cute. So at the top, you would just make several of these, and don't worry, they're not connected, and that's fine. We'll connect them all with big, huge, colorful blooms later. Now for that first stalk, I'm coming in with a white gladiolus, and you see the little bud sticking out at the top of that stalk. And now I'm going to do a big tissuey? Oh, I'm going to do a big white bloom right at the bottom, because as it blooms, the bigger flowers at the bottom, and then the smaller ones are at the top, and they just kind of pop out along the sides like that. Now for the center flower, we're going to come in with some nice hot pink and make a big gladiola right in your face, right in the center, as big as you can make it. It just adds a little bit more depth, and makes the other flowers that are in the background just a little bit smaller, and it just kind of adds a little bit of, I don't know, a depth to it. That's what I'm attempting, at least. So right now I'm just making the flowers and ignoring the stem completely. The ones at the top are small and the flower at the bottom is big. We'll fill in all of the stem parts later. And now we're adding a nice coppery orange flower right next to it, a little bit smaller. And just do the same thing. Basically, you just push the paint around. Little buds at the top of those. You can use a brush, but really the stylus tool, I did not feel a limitation with the flowers at all. The stems, I did. I felt like a bottle or a brush would be much more effective. But I felt like this just pushed the paint around beautifully, and yeah, it worked out really well. Nice tissuey blooms. You know, tissuey is actually not a terrible descriptor for the way these flowers are. They are so just fine and delicate. The petals are just really, really beautiful. So now I'm going to grab some of that green, and we're just going to add some of those stalky stems. Just fill out the background a little bit more. Now that everything is dry, we can come in with a darker shade of each one of those colors and just add some detail. Here I'm adding a darker color to simulate kind of like a shadow effect on the inside of those flowers, and using that same dark purple, just kind of adding detail to the inside where the stamen would be on each one of those gladiola. And yeah, you can switch up the colors, make it more interesting. Here I used a little bit of like lime color, and it just adds a little bit more detail, and it's always good to add a little bit more color. Here I'm using my silicone tool. It's a tiny pointed silicone tool. It acts very similar to a brush, and it's just good for adding teeny tiny details to dotting and to this kind of painting. So yeah, super handy. Now we're moving on to a daisy, which is April's birth month flower. And for a little bit of a change, I used a blue chalk background. This is just a light blue chalk paint. And I'm using my chalk pencil to just kind of sketch out where I want those flowers to show up, making sure that the heads of the daisies are kind of pointing in all directions and have a good flow to them. Some of them are big, some are small, and some of the faces are kind of pointed up or down. There's buds. I wanted a little bit of a variety here. Now for the leaves, I'm doing a slightly different technique. Same technique for the stems, where I'm just dragging that paint up. But for the leaves, I'm using 2 different shades of green, and I'm going to mix them in a different way. So again, this is wet paint, wet on wet. Now you could really load up your stylus tool with a lot of paint, because the more paint you allow on your stylus tool, the more you can drag it out. Now here is the technique I was talking about. You want the lighter green on the top, the darker green on the bottom, and then using a pointed silicone tool, you can drag that paint out, and it gives it kind of a marbleized look in the leaves. So I think that this technique works best when you have more paint so that you can move that paint and mix it better. If it was drier, it wouldn't mix as well. And if you don't have a silicone tool, you can use something like a toothpick or a super small stylus tool to mix those colors. But this was just a fun little technique to make those leaves look a little different, and it will dry like this. Really, really fun little technique to use here. So now we're going to go in and create the daisy flowers on top. And I'm going to use white for the ray petals that extend on the outer edges of each of these flowers. And the way to do that is you just load up your stylus tool and create a dot and then drag it towards the center of the face of that flower. So you want to, as you start painting these flowers, imagine where the center or the disc, that yellow part of the inside of the daisy is going to be. And then just make sure that each of those petals point directly to where that disc is going to be centered. So the more paint that you apply to your tool, the longer you can get the petals to extend. And like I said, you can use bottles for this or brushes, but I really find stylus tools to be just perfect for making a really nice petal shape. Now that all the petals have dried, I'm just going to come in with that white again and add a few more petals to add a little bit of depth and kind of make it a little less evenly spaced and a little less perfectly petal-like, and just add another layer of petals on the inside. And now using some gold, I'm going to go into each of the centers of those flowers and create that disc right on the inside. And this is where all the stamen are, and there's like a second level of tinier yellow petals on the inside. And you just want to add one little disc to each of those flowers facing in the direction that you imagine those flowers to be facing. Okay, so now we're into February's birth month flower, which is a violet. And this violet that I'm doing it's not an African violet, it's more of like a wild violet because it has those pointy leaves. The leaves are really, I think, one of the most beautiful things about a violet. The African violets have this really beautiful, like fuzzy, plumpy leaf. And yeah, they're just really pretty. But I'm using Martha Stewart's chalk paint for the base coat. And I just sketched out kind of an idea of where I want all the flowers to hang out and give it kind of a neat composition. And then for the leaves, they are just basically the formula for a heart shape anything is you plop down 2 dots and then you squish them together and then you make a point right at the bottom. So, spoken like a true dotter, right? It's just two dots squished together. That's it. So again, for this, you just take this fluid paint and you can see the consistency of it. It's very easy to push around and mold. And the metallicness of it is just like very, very nice. I like it. So right now I'm going in and I'm creating all the stems and the leaves. And then I'm going to let that dry and then come in with some purple for the flowers. So you might notice the composition is a little bit similar to the other ones in that I like to have the flowers facing different directions, it just seems a little bit more random. My natural inclination when I get down to, designing something is like, oh, okay, this is the flower shape, and now I'm just going to make 5 of that same flower shape. But if you think about how flowers really hang out, they kind of point in different directions. They're in different stages of opening, and the variation in that is kind of nice. Now, each violet has 5 petals. Some violets have rounded petals and some have pointed petals, just like the leaves, and that's up to you. Now here, I added some highlights to these leaves because they have real plumpy, veiny, just nice leaves. But as I looked at it, I was like, meh, that was a little bit too much contrast. And so what I did was I just went right over it with that darker green color. And I just pretended like I meant to do that. And it actually gave it like this 3D look that I probably wouldn't have gotten had I done that from the start. So yeah, I think it ended up looking much better because I made that mistake in the color. And I am just going to share that with you right now. Can't hide anything on YouTube, can you? But yeah, you just go right over the top and it will dry nice and plumpy and juicy like that. And then finally, I just finished those flowers with a darker purple color and just did some outlines and some shadows, some shading around the petals just to make it stand out a little bit better. Now this I feel would have been a lot easier if I had used a brush or a bottle, but I wanted to just stick with the stylus tools because, that was the deal. So for this final ornament that I'm going to show you, this one's going to be just a random flower bouquet mix. This one is just whatever comes to your mind, just different flowers with different colors. I'm going to speed it up because we know kind of the general idea here. You start with the stems and the leaves, and you can do different leaf shapes and different stems if you'd like. So for this first red flower, I'm going to do kind of like a chrysanthemum flower, or it could even be a carnation or a rose, just like an open flowering, multi-petaled, big, huge, bright flower. Could be a zinnia, whatever you want it to be. So you pick where you want the center to be, and then you create swooshes that kind of uncurl around that center of the flower where the stamen would be. So you make big ones, you make smaller ones, and again, they're all kind of facing different directions, different sizes. You can even hint at little petals at the top. And this is just an easy flower to create. It's just really nice. I like it. Next, we're going to do some purple asters. They are really beautiful, easy to make. They're compact flowers that come in purples and lavenders, and they're really easy to make. They are September's birth month flower, which is coming up. That's both my babies. And Andy. Hi Andy. She's Finny Poo on Instagram. You should check her out. She made the very coolest dotted guitar I've ever seen in my life. And she's just funny and awesome. So, hi Andy. So now for the final flower up on the top left, I wanted to add some pink. And these are kind of loose, open flowers, maybe cosmos or something. So cosmos are so pretty. They come in all kinds of pinky sherbet colors, and they're related to marigolds and daisies, except for the fact that their petals are wider and they have fewer petals. So they're a really simple flower to add, and they're so cute. Once it's dry, you add the centers on each of them. You can switch up the colors, make some gold, some orange, some are even green. I added white to the inside of those pink flowers, and then I added some highlights to the leaves and the stems. So now for the finishing touches. Now that everything is all dry, we're going to go in with a wet cloth and get rid of all of the chalk lines. Just wipe that off. Look at those plumpy leaves. And that was a mistake. I love it when that happens. It's like the best part of that whole thing was the mistake that I made. So now these are all dry, and you can see the difference between the metallic paints, the shine of that, and that velvety dark chalk paint in the background. The light is reflected from the paint, and it's kind of absorbed by that chalkboard paint in the background, and I like that. Now here is an option if you're crazy like I am. If you like to play with gloss, you can go over each of your flowers with a gloss varnish and leave the background matte. Why not? You can do that. It does take a lot of time, but it is an option, and you might be into that. Now my choice for the other ornaments was to leave them unvarnished, and because I really liked the way that the paints played off each other. So the next step is to paint the backs. You just pick an alternate color for the backs. And then once that's dry, you can come in with a gold enamel pen and just this is an Arteza paint marker. These are awesome. I use the gold one all the time. It's nice for adding little touches like this when you need it. Now, one thing to note, the last time I checked, this paint marker was discontinued or sold out. It wasn't available. Things are kind of strange right now with paints and the pandemic. It's harder to come by some of this stuff. So you don't really need Arteza. You can get any kind of gold enamel paint marker and it should work just fine. See, now it just takes like a few seconds, but doesn't that have such a nice finished edge? I think it makes it look a whole bunch better than if it's left unfinished. So now the final step is you grab some pretty ribbon and you are going to make a little bow on the top of each of these ornaments so that you can hang it from a tree. I thought this would be such a cute Christmas present to give someone an ornament with their birth flower on it. They're easy to whip up, and it's just, you know how people like handmade stuff during the holidays, especially ornaments, because they get put away and taken out every year, and it's a little memory. It's just really fun. So I found that if you took the ribbon, doubled it up, and then stuck the loop through the center, you could pull it tight like that, and it kind of, I think it looks really neat the way it hangs like that. And then what you do is you just pull the ribbon, make a knot, maybe like 2 or 3 inches above where it hooks up with the ornament, and then tie a bow above that knot. So yay! Aren't we proud of us? We're getting ready for Christmas. We're doing all the things. And for those of you who are like, whoa, Rachel, where are the dots? Check it out. You can make dotted heart ornaments. It's all good. No worries. I'm still into dots, but I'm going through a floral thing right now. So could you guys do me a favor and let me know in the comments if I'm way off base here or if you guys are into this floral thing? Because if you are, I could hang out here for a while. I love florals, but I also love dots. So what's your vote? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you're into it. Come on, visit me over at the Dotting Center and get yourself some dotting supplies. I hope you all have a great week, and until next time, bye.